everyone. Welcome to another episode of FS Fireside Streams. I am Pooja Khandelwal, the Content Strategy Manager at Fashion Snoops, and I'm extremely excited to be in conversation with our special guest today, Rufus Parkinson. Rufus has over 15 years of experience in retail, luxury, and fashion technology. Currently, he is the president of Styleme, one of the most advanced 3D virtual fitting rooms and styling plugins for brands and retailers. Styleme is a platform that allows consumers to try on clothes virtually to discover their best style and fit while they shop online. So with that, I'd like to welcome Rufus. Hi, Rufus. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Pooja, and it's great to be here.
So today we'll be chatting in reference to our Spring-Summer 22 sentiment, LIBERATE. And to tell you a little bit about it, through LIBERATE, we addressed how cutting-edge creative technologies release us from the limits of our own reality. The digital workspace is expanding with a plethora of new tools like VR, haptics, and CGI. These technologies allow us to produce imaginative designs free from the confines of physical reality. They defy gravity and free us from gender, race, body type, sexuality norms. Accelerated by the pandemic that brought limitations, ironically, we find a renewed sense of freedom with liberation. Styleme is a perfect representation of this sentiment. And to kickstart the interview, Rufus, could you please give our viewers your background and tell us a little bit about Styleme?
Sure, absolutely. So I started my work journey as a retailer, working here in Asia. And from there, I kind of moved on to consumer goods. So I worked for Mars in consumer goods side, both on the snack food and pet food, and then moved on to luxury. So kind of moving up the chain, as it were, and spent nearly 10 years working at LVMH. Obviously, you have a large host of luxury brands, and I was working there running markets here in Asia. For the last 4 years plus, my passion has been Styleme. And as you mentioned, you gave a very, very good introduction. We're basically, our goal is to take that physical try on experience and put it online so that consumers really can experience that sort of touch and physical enjoyment of trying on clothes, but anywhere, anytime in a virtual environment. So our goal was always to overcome that barrier for consumer where we're shopping online, we discover product, but we really don't know what it's going to look like on our body. And so visualizing it and giving you the fit detail has basically been key, and that's what we've been developing over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's interesting. Please tell me more about the virtual fitting technology. How does it work? And how is Styleme different from other virtual fitting technologies?
Absolutely. So it's as you can imagine, it's not simple to put clothing on an array of bodies, all sizes and shapes, and make it drape and look natural and realistic and accurate is certainly a significant tech challenge. So I have a team of around 25 engineers here in Taiwan who were basically working on that project for around 3 years plus to get it to where it needed to be able to take it to market. And we overcame a lot of obstacles in terms of, how do you simulate clothing? How do you deal with elasticity? Some very detailed, but very essential kind of challenges that needed to be addressed. So having got through that, it was all about delivering an easy, enjoyable consumer experience. Because at the end of the day, the shopper needs to be able to use it in an easy fashion and get what they want out of it. So we've been able to do that, and obviously the benefits are huge. So the shopper now has increased confidence to purchase, and then that filters down into driving key metrics for our retail partners as well.
So speaking of our shoppers, could you say a little more about that? As in, how would you say this technology has added to the experience of online shoppers? And
Sure.
also, in addition to that, what difference has it made to the retailers? So what I'm trying to understand is that how has it been instrumental to both?
Yeah. So from the onset, we had this central kind of ethos that we needed to improve the shopper journey and the shopper experience, and everybody knows from their personal kind of experience of browsing online, it can be quite painful. You can spend a lot of time to find something, and then finally it won't fit you. So we wanted to really address that. So making that consumer journey much smoother, more enjoyable, the discovery experience much more kind of immersive was also central to that. So it's about styling, but it's also about fit. So how do I get inspired when I'm shopping? How do I get motivated and excited about something? And then I have the confidence that that item, that piece of clothing, that dress, that jacket, whatever it is, when it comes to me, it's actually going to fit me the way that I saw it online. And that's something that was just not possible before. So, even with physical trying on in stores, it can be quite an arduous process. And if you want to try on 6, 7, 8 items, it's going to take you a long, long time. So by taking it online, by allowing you to mix and match outfits, layer clothing on top, even put jackets on top, see how it'll interact. You can produce yourself or find yourself outfits, and then basically shop with confidence. So the feedback from the consumer has been very, very strong, and I can talk about that a bit more later on. But for the retail side, what it's meant is that people are generally spending 2.5 to 3 times longer on sites, looking at more pages, more products. They're far more sticky, so they're coming back at a far higher frequency, and basically that filters down into the conversion. So I mean, our retailers are seeing conversion rates jump by 2 or 3 times when people use the fitting room versus those who are not using the fitting room. And likewise, with that confidence to purchase and with that accuracy on fit, it's reducing one of the key costs for retailers, which is returns. So you'll be very aware, but in the US, return rates typically run at 30 or even 50% for some categories. And that's a massive cost burden for retailers. So whilst everyone was kind of moving online, even in more rapid speed over this year, that cost was still there. And that cost is something that we've been addressing with this tool. So at the end of the day, we drive the top line, but we also drive the savings on the bottom line. So retail partners so far have been very happy anyway.
Good to know. Yeah. And as a shopper, it definitely does sound very exciting the way you explained it, for sure. You mentioned about shopper feedback. So my next question is actually in relation to that. Could you share a few examples of the feedback that you get from users? How is the general feeling around it? What are some of their favorite features? And specifically, what has the user feedback been about using avatars to try virtually their products?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So initially, there's a bit of a wow factor when people see it for the first time. Often they go, "Wow, that's really cool." I can see clothing on a body that looks like my body, and then you sort of get past that initial wow, and then we obviously have to dig to make sure that it's really adding value for them. But it does, and we get quotes back like, it takes away the guesstimates when I have to choose sizing, takes away the hassle of looking through size charts. I could never understand size charts were always different from retailer to retailer. I'm a size 8 here, I'm a size 10 here. There's just no consistency. And so it takes away all of that sort of guesswork, essentially. So they're very happy with that. And there's a couple of features. I mean, one of them certainly is our fit guide. So our fit guide allows you to see the personalized fit of an item. So whether it's loose or tight in different areas of your body. And then obviously you can decide how loose or tight you would like it. So that's a key one. I would say that's probably the most preferred, but also this ability to be able to create outfits and layer clothing. So put jackets on top of shirts, etc. So really styling is central as well. In terms of the avatar, sorry, I didn't answer your second part of the question. But in terms of the avatar, yeah, this is an interesting one because when we started to research this, a few years back now, we looked at different ways of creating the avatar. And also we looked at different ways of delivering the fit detail. And we decided that the avatar was essential, because at the end of the day, when you receive goods that you purchase online, you try them on. And if you do return them, you return them for two main reasons. One is it's the wrong size, it just doesn't fit. Or secondly, it doesn't actually look good on me. You know, what it looks like is finally not what I thought. And that may be because of material or because particular fit detail or length or whatever it is. So those two issues we wanted to overcome. And that's why we needed the visualization piece. Now, in terms of avatars, we've actually had very positive feedback. We've gone down a sort of path of least resistance in terms of creating your avatar. We ask you for a few simple measurements and some body shapes. So we don't ask you to upload photos, download an app, etc. And I think by taking away those obstacles, we've managed to get very strong adoption. So, where our tool is present, we're getting upwards of a third of shoppers actually using the tool and putting in measurements. So quite a high number.
Thank you. So shifting gears now, while we have been tracking the influence of virtual try-on technology for some time, you'll probably agree with me that the pandemic has added a new sense of urgency for these type of shopping innovations. So my question to you is that what has Styleme's experience been during this crisis, where everyone wants to go touchless and contactless?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So, I mean, obviously retailers in the most part have been having a tough time this year. But what we've seen is that we've seen the trends that were existing in the market have essentially been accelerated by what's happening. And whether that be the pressure on physical stores, but also some of the shift online and some of the innovation that's happening online. So if I sort of put the clock back and go 2 years ago, when I was talking to retailers, basically when we had the product in final stages of development, they were saying, "Oh yeah, this is interesting. I quite like this, but I've got this list of priorities and all these other things to do. So come back and talk to me in 6 months' time." And that was the sort of state of retail at the time. And as you know, retailers, not always in fashion, are the most forefront of technology adoption. So it was positive, but it was kind of not now. Now that shift is in sentiment has been huge over the last 9 months, because retailers really have woken up to the fact that this is no longer a nice to have. This is actually a necessity for the future. And it's not just because I say it or other kind of tech developers say it. It's because consumers are demanding it. They're actually saying, we need a better shopping experience. And if you want me to come back to your online store, you've got to do something different. So we've seen that shift happen, and we've obviously seen a big lift in demand. And at the same time, I think it's timely because companies like ourselves have actually got the product to a level where it's pretty easy and pretty quick to implement. So it's no longer something that, wow, this is very expensive, this would only be for very large retailers. Actually, our sweet spot for our client side is really independent retailers. It's the smaller end of the market, where they have limited resources, but they're very agile to move. And that's where we've had huge success in terms of implementing plugins, light integration, quick digitization. We get them live within 3 weeks, and they're off and running. So yeah, it's been positive for us, and it's accelerated those trends in the market now.
That is amazing. It is really, I think it's high time, and it's amazing to know that it has been positive to you. But however, my next question is that, retail is often a business that talks about innovation more than it acts on it. And so what are some of the hurdles you've had to face in getting this type of technology integrated into the retailers or brands business? Has there been a lot of education that goes into that process, and any other hurdles that you face?
Yeah, so it hasn't been easy. I mean, this year apart, and the acceleration that we're seeing now, to start with, there is a fair amount of resistance. Some people just don't quite believe that this is necessary. They'd rather put their focus on the creative, the next collection, the marketing dollar behind that collection. rather than actually thinking about the end shopper and consumer and their online experience. I think previously, obviously, because retailers were still in majority reliant on stores for their revenue, this was a secondary kind of priority. And then there are, frankly, some retail brands that think, well, this doesn't quite fit with my shopping experience. It's a new sort of something quite different. How will it work with my brand, etc.? And so there have been sort of some experiences of that. And I think we've got past that, obviously, by getting more and more retailers live, and we've got nearly 50 retailers now, but also getting some great marks, some icon brands like Daimler and Furstenberg, where you can see the product in beautiful kind of rendering and recreation in 3D, and that overcomes some of those issues. So I think, yeah, there's been resistance along the way, but they're starting to move. And obviously, when people like Amazon talk about virtual fitting, etc., merchants across the market know that they really need to be looking at this.
Yeah. You mentioned that, how Styleme, you avoid taking any photographs. Rather, the user does not need to give any photographs, and their information is protected. But what are some of the ethical considerations to bear in mind? What are the threats associated with it, and where should we draw a line? Because, as you know, this technology does leave a trail of personal and biometric information. It does have valuable real-time insights into customers' wants and likes and their lifestyle in general. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good one, because on the one side, that data that you're inputting allows you to have a much more personalized experience and get the benefits that delivers. But on the other side, as you say, you're giving out data which, as you say, might be biometric. Now, the way that we get around that or work with it basically is that all of our data is anonymized. So actually, if you go online today and you put in your data, you create your avatar, you go shopping, you try on 20 pieces of clothing, you will only show in our database as an anonymized number, essentially. So we're not actually attaching it to a personal profile. Now, that's not to say in the future that might happen, but I think when that does happen, you need to be very careful and very upfront and very open and very transparent with the user that's what's going to happen. And obviously, they have certain rights about that being kept or not kept. So I think that's key. And I think always is being upfront and open and saying, like, you have this choice.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. So how do you envision the future of this technology? What do you see it evolve into? We are already seeing website and social media integration with 3D avatars. And in addition, these avatars are freeing us from gender, race, and sexuality concerns. So where are we going? Where are we headed? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, I think your topic there is very relevant, because I believe that this does give you a sense of freedom in terms of that shopping experience that you don't necessarily get in a physical environment. And not everybody is comfortable in going to every store, excuse me, and try on clothing, etc. So this gets around that, and I think that's a great value for a large part of the sort of shopping community. Now, in terms of what's coming, I think, first of all, what we're seeing now will continue in terms of adoption. So at the moment, whilst this sort of solution is out there, it's not everywhere, and it's by no means everywhere. We're at the beginning of that kind of curve. So that will increase in terms of its rollout, I would say. Now, in terms of the technology, I think mobile, increasingly is where everybody, or certainly younger shoppers, are spending their time, whether it be on research, whether it be on actual purchasing. And these type of solutions need to become more and more integrated into that mobile experience. We developed as a mobile first, but we can do even better, and other people can do better as well in terms of how we integrate into that. because will be the first interface for all young consumers. Now, in terms of other applications, I have a belief that the phygital store, the physical meeting the digital, is something that we're going to see more of going forwards. I don't believe that the shift online is going to kill traditional retail. It will be there, but it has to reinvent itself, has to become more experiential, has to become more immersive, interactive, and that will require what's happening online being integrated into what's happening offline in a true kind of, I would say, quite a new sort of concept of shopping. And I believe we'll see that coming in the coming sort of year or two, I would say.
Yeah, that was very insightful. And I think the key word to take from this would be reinvent. So
yes, absolutely. We can't do the same thing that we've done in the past because we know where that will go. Yes, absolutely.
So I'd like to end with my final question. Are there any current innovations from Styleme that you could share with us, and what should we keep a lookout for?
Okay, so I mean, first of all, we're expanding quickly. So every week we bring 2 or 3 new retail clients on board. So you'll see a lot more of us. That would be the first thing. In terms of innovation, yes, we've got quite a product roadmap of things that we're doing. We just launched men's, so we're now across women's and men's, which is obviously the main part or another main part of the market. Now, in terms of the technology and where it's going, you will see us try and develop more or improved ways of integrating into stores. So taking that online experience and how that could be applied in stores. And then also, how do you further improve the rendering, the visualization and that piece of experience, whether it be in its current state or more in AR, etc. in the future. One of the things here is that devices have moved on very quickly over the last few years. They have a lot more power, a lot more capability. And with that, the technology can also, in terms of the virtual fitting, etc., can also move along. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all about being simple, being engaging, being fun, and adding the value to the shopper. So we shouldn't overcomplicate it. We shouldn't pile it full of too many features, as it were, because it needs to be something that you're happy just to pick up, and within 30 seconds, a minute or two, you can get what you want out of it. And that's really key.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much, Rufus, for sharing these brilliant insights. It really is super interesting and draws attention to something that is important right now, and it's going to be important in the coming days. And it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. On behalf of the entire FS team, I want to thank you for your time and for joining us today.
Not at all. It's been great talking. Thank you, Pooja.